Hi, this is Joseph Ernst, and I'm with my Grandma Joy, and it's Thanksgiving in 2008, and we're doing an interview about the values of living a good life. So are you ready, Grandma?
I'm ready. What's your first question?
The first question is, please describe your childhood in relation to society today.
Okay. When I was very young, I grew up in Berkeley, and Berkeley was much the same as it is now, but it was a lot different too. In the first place, there was no visibility of any kind of minorities. In my childhood, when I was growing up, you'd open a magazine, all the people in the ads would be white. You'd turn on the TV, there wouldn't be a black face. And there was even what we called redlining at that time, and this didn't disappear, I don't think, until the 60s. Can you imagine this? Everybody who was African American had to live west of Martin Luther King Way. It was called Grove Street then. And when in the 60s, when they decided that that was terrible and they outlawed that, even in a liberal place like Berkeley, this was going on. They changed the name to Martin Luther King Way after the great civil rights leader. And can you imagine today, our society is so full of different kinds of people, and we even have a black president-elect. That would have been unheard of and unthought of in my childhood. Everybody was a white male who was in any kind of a position of power. The other thing that is so amazing as I'm older that was different than I was younger is the whole communications revolution that's happened. The internet, the cyberspace, Okay, as I was saying, I was talking about the changes in communications and technology, and there's lots of things I could think of in this realm. We used to write letters.
Yeah.
And letter writing was very interesting. You took a piece of paper and a pen and a pencil and a stamp and you wrote a letter and sent it off. These days you just sit and type and whisk it off. And the problem with that in one way, as I see it today, is there's no record of it. We used to save letters. Letters from my mother and my father to me when they were living in India, as they lived in India for a while. Now, you know, they would have just sent an email clear from India. And it would have been instant, so that would have been good, but we probably wouldn't have saved it, you know, as an archive kind of thing. Another thing, music. Now I noticed, Joseph, you have a little thing called an iPod and earbuds, and you can put how many tunes on that thing?
Well, for mine, you could put 500, or depends what format you have them in, but you can put a lot in it's just a little hard drive.
Well, that's amazing. You know what we had in my day? We had vinyl records.
Yeah.
And so you had to have lots of space to store these records, and they'd get scratched, and you know, that was very different. Another area I'd like to talk a little bit about, because I'm really into sports, is the change in sports, and in baseball in particular. When I was growing up in Berkeley, all the baseball teams were on the East Coast. None were west of the Mississippi. And then the other change there was all the players on the team were white. No African Americans were on the team, even way back then when. And I remember my dad taking me to Yankee Stadium to see Satchel Paige, the great African American pitcher, pitch. And he said it was just wonderful because he came from what they called the Negro Leagues. And he was one of the first players to play, and that would have been in the 50s, I think. So that's a big difference. But now we have teams spread all over the country. A lot of our players come from Japan, they come from Latin America. Of course, many are African American, and it's a lot of role models for children when they're growing up. I hope to see the day when they let a young woman who's really good play on one of the Major League Baseball teams. Of course, their salaries are huge now, too, and, you know, that's kind of a difference. Another change that I see is the homogenization of business. Because I was a business person. I had a store for many years in Albany. And these days, all the stores, no matter where you go in the country, are the same. And there's not very many small, privately owned stores. And the big stores, the big box stores, the Home Depot and Walmart and Kmart and Target and all those things are sort of wiping out the local privately owned stores. We used to have a wonderful store in Berkeley called Hinks, and it was a privately owned department store downtown. And it had wooden floors, and you'd go in there at the end of the month and you'd always get a present from Hinks when you shopped. Now it seems like the only department store is Macy's. Macy's has swallowed up all those stores, so that's kind of a difference. The other thing that's so different that I can think of is that we used to think of America as the most powerful nation in the world. And these days it seems like we're outsourcing many things, and America as a country is dealing with the same problems that China is, that India is, that people all over the world are dealing with. And it's things like pollution, it's things like the economy, and all that is affecting us, and all our problems are affecting them. And we no longer think we can just rule the world with whatever we want to do. We have to take into consideration these other countries as well. Okay.